adopted. On to citizens' public comment. Are there any comments or requests from visitors? Yes, ma'am. If you could approach a podium and state your name.
My name is Megan Swanson. I'm the director at Angels of McGregor. I'd like to address a concern regarding the process being used to consider funding for Angels and Aitkin County Care. Last year, Angels chose not to request funding from Aitkin County. During a public meeting, Commissioner Westerland stated, as a matter of fact, that Angels did not request funding because we did not have a budget to present. I want to correct that statement for the record. Angels did have a budget. Our decision not to request funding had nothing to do with an inability to provide one. Commissioner Westerland did not speak with Angels before making that statement, and she was not in a position to state our reason for not requesting funding on our behalf.
May I remind you the protocol, not to make personal attacks on people?
It's not an attack, it's a fact.
Okay. Proceed with caution, though.
Ordinarily, I'd simply consider that an inaccurate assumption. However, this year, Angels is requesting funding. Aitkin County Care is also seeking county funding, and Commissioner Westerland currently serves as both a county commissioner and a board chair to Aitkin County Care. That creates a concern for me about the impartiality of this process. This is not an accusation of wrongdoing, nor am I questioning the value of services care provides. I'm asking whether it is appropriate for a sitting board chair of one organization seeking county funding to participate in discussions making representations concerning another applicant or vote on funding decisions involving those organizations. Given Commissioner Westerland's dual role, I respectfully ask that the county attorney address on the record whether she should participate in discussion or voting regarding funding for Care or Angels. Angels is not asking for preferential treatment. We are asking for our organization to be allowed to speak for itself and decisions about us based on accurate information, and that every organization requesting public funding be evaluated through the same fair and impartial process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Further public comment? Amy. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you.
For the record, if you could state your name.
Absolutely. My name is Amy Wyant, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of Aitkin County Care, Incorporated. I'm here today because of the 2027 appropriations are on your agenda. First, your 2026 $55,000 investment is being multiplied. Your local appropriation has given me a stronger platform from which to seek additional funding, develop partnerships, and get creative about generating revenue to fulfill our mission. And I've been able to leverage it. Most recently, and not yet publicly announced, I secured $126,588 from the Minnesota Department of Human Services. This funding will bring additional resources to Aitkin County residents. Also this year, I leveraged the appropriation to secure an additional $30,000 in an operating grant from the Northland Foundation for quarters 3 and 4 for our organization. Your investment helped CARE bring more money into Aitkin County. $156,588 to be exact. Your appropriation allows me to stretch every dollar further, and I'm not yet done for 2026. We are a finalist for another operational grant from the Boreal Waters Community Foundation, and your appropriation is a part of that grant application as well. These additional dollars come back to Aitkin County residents through services and programs. You invest in care, I leverage that investment. Outside funders see that Aitkin County believes in us. Additional funding comes into our communities and our residents benefit. This is leverage. This is partnership. That is an investment that multiplies, and I'm very proud of this. We at CARE are currently providing in-home services to 20 and soon to be 21 Aitkin County residents who are receiving waiver services. And these waiver services are outlined in individual support plans developed by your county case managers. Currently, we are working with 7 case managers. My staff are the people who are doing the meal prep, doing the laundry. They're the people making the beds, cleaning the toilets, washing the dishes, organizing the bills, vacuuming, and visiting and connecting with our mutual clients. You can count on us to provide these services because we hold the appropriate Minnesota Department of Human Services 245D license, and our professional caregivers complete the required training in person-centered care and other licensing requirements by the state of Minnesota. If a person receiving waiver services can remain safely in their own home with appropriate supports, that is generally a much less expensive option than moving to a higher level of care, such as assisted living or a nursing home. And when a person's needs eventually require that next level of care, the cost increases. For waiver recipients, those costs are ultimately supported by you and me, the taxpayers. So clearly, the relationship between CARE and Aitkin County Home and Community-Based Services truly goes hand in hand. So the question before you is simply not, should we give CARE $75,800? The bigger question is, what do we want to continue building together here in Aitkin County? We know our population is aging. We know many residents want to remain in their own homes for as long as they safely can. And we know family caregivers need support. And we know that as people's needs change, families need access to strong, local care options. These are not future challenges. These are today's realities right here in Aitkin County. Your investment helps us respond to these realities. You have the opportunity, through your leadership, to make Aitkin County a model for rural communities across Minnesota. A county that invests in a strong continuum of services and cares, where older adults have choices and family caregivers know where to turn. Appropriations are about dollars and values. When you invest in care, you communicate that Aitkin County values older adults, family caregivers, independence, and strong local care options. Why shouldn't the Minnesota Board on Aging and AMC look to Aitkin County and say, they're doing something right there? I believe we can get there, and I believe we are already building it together. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Amy. Are there any other citizens' public comments? Yes, Teresa. Again, if you could just state your name for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chair,
Morning.
Commissioners. My name is Teresa Smoody. I am the Executive Director of the Aitkin County HRA. I am a terrible public speaker, so I'm going to be reading. I'm here today to speak in support of the funding request by Aitkin County CARE. They serve older adults, the elderly, and the disabled residents of our county. I believe one of the most important measures of a community is how we treat the people who are the most vulnerable and how we respond when someone needs a little help to remain safe, independent, and part of the community they call home. Every day, there are elderly and disabled residents in our county who are struggling with challenges that many of us may never see. Sometimes it's as simple as needing help accessing a service, finding safe and affordable housing, getting transportation, navigating a complicated system, or having someone advocate for them when they don't know where else to turn. For these individuals, Aitkin County CARE services throughout our county, the whole county, are often the difference between being able to remain independent and reaching a point of crisis. And that distinction matters, not only to the individual, but to the county as a whole. When we invest in organizations that provide assistance early, we can help prevent more costly problems later. We can help people remain safe in their homes, avoid unnecessary institutional care, maintain stable housing, and continue to live with dignity and independence. I understand the county resources are limited. I also understand that the commissioners must make tough decisions about where those dollars will have the greatest impact. I would ask you to consider this funding not simply as an appropriation or an expense, but as an investment in the people of our county. Local funding can allow Aitkin County Care to leverage additional state, federal, private, and charitable resources. It allows organizations to keep staff in place, respond to residents' needs, and provide services that would otherwise be unavailable or significantly reduced. And this is about people, not programs or budgets. This isn't about funding an organization. It's about the elderly neighbor who wants to remain in their home. It's about the person with a disability who simply wants the opportunity to live independently and participate in the community. It's about a family member who needs help caring for a loved one that doesn't know where to turn. These are our friends, our neighbors, our parents, our grandparents, and members of our community. Our seniors have spent their lives helping build this community. Your investment tells our elderly and disabled residents that they matter, that their community has not forgotten them, and that we are willing to stand behind them when they need us most. I respectfully ask you to support Aitkin County Care and provide the funding necessary for them to continue and expand these vital services to the people of Aitkin County. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. Are there any other citizens' public comments? Further citizens' public comment, last call for any citizens' public comment. Thank you to those who offered comments here this morning. That being said, we'll proceed on to the consent agenda. Commissioners, barring any questions, the motion would be in order.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion on the floor to set effect by Commissioner Sample and support.
I'll support.
Okay, the motion is supported by Commissioner Carney. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Consent agenda is hereby approved. On to County Engineer, John Welly.
Morning, John.
Morning, John. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. Annual report is before you today, the 2025 annual report. Annually, I go over this report with you, although in recent years I've been going through it in much more brief fashion. So I plan to follow that protocol this year. You all have the annual report that was submitted. I do have additional copies if anyone wants to follow along in a hard copy. So I'm just going to quickly go through this report. I'm not going to go into any detail. There's a lot of information in here, much more information than can be presented in a presentation like this. So I'm basically just going to try to introduce you to the information that is in the report. So starting on page 1 of the report, this just lists all of our, basically a summary of our expenditures for the 2025 calendar year. You can see at on page 1 a listing of our mileage. We break our county road mileage down into 3 different segments, or 3 different categories, I should say. County state aid highway regular mileage, which is county state aid highways that are outside of municipalities. County state aid highways within municipalities, and then county roads, which receive no state aid funding. So you can see the mileage for each of those categories. You can see the corresponding costs for all of those 3 categories. If you total them all up, we spent about $4.784 million on maintenance for our roughly 518 miles of county state aid highways and county roads that we have in the county. I should mention, this is just an interesting bit of information. I don't think I presented this in the past, but if you look at the mileage of our county state aid highways to our total county road mileage, if you do the calculation there, you will see that we have a good percentage of our county roads that we maintain that are county state aid highways, 74% to be exact. So of all of our county road miles that we maintain, the 518 miles, 74% of them gain state aid funding. That's a higher percentage than any of our 8 surrounding counties. So that's that's a good thing for us. It makes it more manageable that we receive state aid funding for a higher percentage of the highways that we maintain. If you look a little deeper into that statistic, probably a likely reason that that's the case is because we also have the highest ratio of township roads to county roads of any of those counties. So we have more township roads, basically just, as Aitkin County developed, the townships took a larger responsibility in maintaining a lot of the roads in surrounding counties, so we have more township roads than most counties do. Like I said, an interesting bit of information there that I don't believe I presented before. On to the summary, continuing on with the summary. The bottom part of that page 1 summary shows our construction costs. Again, different categories of construction: county state aid highway regular, municipal, county roads, and then miscellaneous. You can see that we spent a total of just over $7 million on construction projects on those various categories in 2025. If you add up all the projects that we worked on a total of 32 projects in 2025. Obviously, we didn't construct that many projects. Projects take a lot of planning. We're planning projects probably 5-6 years before construction takes place, and then it takes a year or two after construction to get all the final paperwork completed. So that explains why, although we construct anywhere from 5 to 10 projects per year, we spend money on again this year 32 projects. So just to talk a little bit about what's in the rest of this report, if you look on pages 12 through 16 of this report, that will go into more detail probably than you want on the maintenance costs that are summarized on the upper portion of this page 1. If you look on pages 17 through 20 of this report, you will see, again, a lot of detail on the various costs that went into those construction projects. Costs are categorized into construction payments, right-of-way payments, utility move costs, as well as professional engineering costs. So those sheets of the annual report is where you'll find much more detail on all of these costs that are summarized on page 1. Turning to page 2, this is just a summary of the actual county road construction projects that happened in 2025. You can see a listing of 9 projects there. If you look through them, 4 of them were bridge replacements. We're into a heavy bridge replacement program right now, so 4 of those were bridge replacements. Others were just standard resurfacing and rebuilding work on county roads. The middle part of the page here is the same maintenance costs that were on the previous page. The bottom part of this page under number 5 lists our capital outlay. This is the equipment that basically a list of the equipment that I appeared before you at various points during 2025 for various equipment purchases. You see the big one there. Obviously, we took delivery of our 4 Western Star plow trucks in 2025. We had previously paid for the chassis in 2024, but in 2025 is where all of the costs for outfitting the chassis into snowplow trucks show up. So $631,000 of the total $965,000 of equipment costs are in those 4 trucks. On to page 3, which is our financial statement. Just to quickly go over this financial statement. At the top, you'll see our cash balance at the end of 2025 was a little over $4.3 million. The remainder of this, as you go through this financial statement, it's just a typical financial statement listing assets, liabilities. If you look on page 4 through 7 of this report, you'll see the support for all of those numbers that are listed under assets and liabilities. Towards the bottom of the page, you'll see our unreserved, undesignated fund balance as of year end of just over $3.9 million. And that appears again at the bottom of the page. This fund balance, after applying an adjustment for capital expenditures, it gets us to the fund balance range that we're aiming for by our county policy. Our county policy says that our fund balance should be between $3.1 and $3.8 million. As of year end 2025, after applying that adjustment, we'll be right within that range. I should note that this number is different than the number you will likely see from the county audit when you see that, probably within the coming months. It's just that's an audit. This is cost accounting, so they're kind of different ways of looking at the same numbers. That's why the numbers are a little different. The fund balance numbers will be a little different, and that's because of the way the county audit treats inventory as well as capital items. So then going on to page 8. Page 8, there's a bunch of pages here, page 8-1 through 8-16. They all have to do with our equipment that the highway department has. We have a lot of equipment. These sheets summarize all of the costs of the equipment, the depreciation schedules, the rental earned. And there's actually an itemized listing of the costs that go into the equipment. So if you're curious about the costs of the equipment, you can find that all in pages 8-1 through 8-18, actually. Page 9 then is just a listing of our properties that are owned by the highway department. As you know, we have 6 maintenance facilities. In addition to that, we have several gravel pits. We have a couple of sites that have been acquired for wetland restoration. Just some basic information on all of those properties are listed on page 9. And then on page 10, and this is the last page I'm going to cover, it's just a summary of revenues and expenditures for 2025 in a little bit different format, following more closely our budget format. So you can see from the page 10-2, which is the expenditures, a little over $14,294,000 was spent by the highway department in 2025. And that has a corresponding revenue amount shown on the page 10-1 of $14,806,000. So there's again, a little bit different way of showing the revenues and expenditures in the department. And with that, I guess the rest of the pages I've just referenced briefly. If there's no further questions, Mr. Chair, I just ask for a motion to accept the report. And I also would like to recognize my office staff, Sarah Olson primarily, who puts this report together, and Carol Johnson also does a lot of work that culminates in this report.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Sample.
I got a couple questions, just for my knowledge. Does Aitkin County have the most gravel roads of any county in the state?
I don't know the answer to that question. What I've told you before is that if you look at our state aid highway system, our 382-mile state aid highway system, we have, with the exception of 1 or 2 counties on the South Dakota border, we have the highest percentage of our state aid system that are gravel roads.
Yeah, that was one. My other question to you, John, is with the high cost of fuel, how do you get that in your budget? I mean, when we started, it was what, $2.95 a gallon? Now what are you paying?
I think we got a tanker delivered here early August that was up around $4.20, I think. That was the highest that we've seen since the since the fuel spikes a few years ago. We haven't quite reached that maximum, but we were headed there. Luckily, our latest tanker purchase, which has happened since then, it came back down a little bit. But yeah, our fuel costs are high. You know, you'll see graphs during my budget presentation coming up that show fuel costs, and actually that chart will show when we purchased diesel fuel for under $1 a gallon within the last, I believe it's 15 years. at as high as over $4.50 a gallon. And like you said, right now, costs are high. Everything we do depends on the cost of energy, so yeah, costs are high for us right now.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions? Barring no further questions, motion would be in order.
Move to accept the report.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner LaVisca, officially adopting the report. Is there support?
Second.
Motion supported by Commissioner Westerlund. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Report's officially adopted. John, thank you, and thanks to your staff.
Thanks, John.
On to County Auditor Kathleen Ryan. Welcome, Kathleen.
Good morning.
Morning, Kathleen.
So my first item today is the preliminary budget. I have to kind of apologize because I have some additions, some changes I'm gonna go over with you today, just because this is kind of a work in progress. As we keep looking at things and talking about things, items pop up. So as I prepared this, then there were some things that came up in the last week. So I will point those out as we go. But to start with, our budget committee met on July 27th. That was our first time that we met to review what the preliminary budget was, entry that was put into the IFS system, and to look at considerations that we have to talk about and direction that the board may want to go. So just at a glance, and this is the overall budget, so this is including all funds. So we have total revenues coming in at $45,528,567. We have total expenditures coming in at $46,836,562. At the time when I typed this up, levy was projected at $21,181,640, and that included using a planned fund deficit in the general fund only. This didn't include fund deficits for other funds, but just the general fund of $1,307,995. That fund deficit was looking at the capital improvement plan and items that were in the capital improvement plan at that time. I'll just note, since then, I did speak with HHS also, because we had discussions regarding those one-time capital purchases and also items that were put into the capital improvement plan to kind of, plan ahead and gain funds for future purchases. Looking at the levy increase, it was decided that this year is not a good year if we're gonna put money in the budget to try to gain headway, we're gonna be using fund balance. So there's no point in having that money in the budget. So the HHS adjusted theirs down to, so that was a reduction in HHS of about $60,000. So again, this is the overall budget. We're talking about the proposed levy. The 2026 levy was $18,981,45. 2027 proposed was $21,181,640. This was a $2,205,995 increase in dollars and 11.59% in a percent increase. And again, this was with planned deficit of $1,307,995 in the general fund. The planned deficit is one-time capital and information technology upgrade projects. So these expenditures represent strategic investments in county facilities, infrastructure, and technology rather than ongoing operating costs. Although I want to hesitate on that comment because the IT is a very large piece of this, and they're kind of ongoing expenditures because of ongoing service contracts and stuff that we have to pay. So it's kind of large capital, but we have to reinvest after a few years again. This is just kind of a snapshot of all the funds that are included into our levy. So that's the general fund, road and bridge, health and human services, our bond, principal and interest payment, and then our parks. So when this presentation was put together, the general fund showed a change of an increase of 11.99%. Road and bridge had an increase of just over 5%. Health and human services had an increase of 15%. The bond had an increase of 13%. The bond had an increase also last year. We were audited on our bond, and I gained knowledge that we were keeping too much money in our bond fund, and we cannot do that. So the last couple years, we budgeted lower to kind of burn down that bond fund. But we're at a point now where we have to levy in order to pay our principal and interest. So that is why there's such an increase in there too. And this is just a pie chart to show you where our revenue sources are. The greatest amount of our revenue sources is our levy. Also, we have licenses and permits are in the orange. We have intergovernmental. Oh, good Lord. I've been here since 6:30, so.
You've been putting long hours in too.
So the intergovernmental is all of our grants, whether it's state and federal grants. We have investment earnings, gifts and contributions, and then miscellaneous, and of course our charges for services. So that's kind of what our breakdown of our revenue is. And this pie chart, just to kind of give you a visual of what our revenue comparisons have been over the last 3 years from 2025 to projected 2027. Now, this is all budget. This isn't actual, so this is just a comparison of all the 3 budget years together to see how those revenues compare. And you'll see levy has increased. Investment earnings have kind of gone back and forth, and intergovernmental has kind of stayed steady also. Miscellaneous, you'll see, has gone down, and I'll cover this a little bit further into the presentation. The reason miscellaneous is down is a way that we accounted for our payroll contingency. In the past, we have accounted for that as a revenue offset versus a decrease in expenditures. This year, we are changing that philosophy and going to account for it as a reduce in the actual payroll expenditures, and I'll discuss that in a little bit. So just looking at the general fund, we have the overall levy increase was $2.2 million. The general fund is a part of that. The biggest drivers, which is driving all funds, is our wage increase, was a 7% wage increase. Talking about that, it's kind of broken down as I believe a 3% COLA, but then accounted for in a 4% step, although we do within range movements now. We have our IT infrastructure and technology investments, and of course, enhanced IT services and cybersecurity, and then just overall inflationary expenses in some areas. One is fuel and other utilities that we're dealing with. So I just want to make a note here, talking about our general fund. I did not put in the salary contingency, which we have accounted for the last few years. Again, that was accounted for as a revenue, and this year we're going to look at it as an expenditure decrease. So our general fund increase would be $1.2 million of that $2.2 million. Once I enter the salary contingency, which is based on a 2%, looking at historical averages of what we budget in salaries, and then with people either retiring or leaving and filling with lower salaries and that fluctuation, or having open positions, we can budget at like 98% of what our salary projections are, right? So that would be a 2% reduction. So that 2% would decrease the levy increase to $923,000. So that would kind of bring that 11.59% down to a 9.97%.
Yes, David.
Maybe while we're on this slide, Kathleen had talked a little bit about the salaries, and I just wanted to make sure there was some clarity on the 7%. Everybody doesn't get 7%. salary increase. It's the range moves 4%. So if you're at the top of the scale, that's your limit. And if you're not at the top of the scale, you can get up to an additional 3% within range movement.
And if I may piggyback onto that, for necessary reasons, there were adjustments to bring us up to our competitor counties.
Correct, yes, very much so, very much needed, and a lot of our a lot of us department heads are struggling with our budgets because it's like, oh, it doesn't look good, but it was a needed thing that the county needed to do, so we all support it. Yes.
Retention and recruitment.
Yes. So on to expenditure comparison. Again, this is an overall picture of all the, oh no, sorry, this is just the revenue fund broken down. So in the revenue fund, we have different areas. We have general government, and then public safety is broken out of that. That's the sheriff's department, community corrections. Then we have sanitation, which is environmental services, Andrews area. Culture and recreation is our, to the library and our other areas such as the library and the Egg Society go into culture and recreation. And then conservation, natural resources. It's our other app. I'm sorry, I forgot. I didn't write the note on that, but that's our other areas that we have to appropriate money to. Soil and water, I believe, and
Long Lake.
not Long Lake, no, because they're in a separate fund. Right. But it's our appropriations that we issue out of the revenue fund. I believe it's soil and water is the biggest one out of there, and there's maybe the Egg Society. Culture and recreation is library and historical society, and like our care appropriations and those that we're going to be talking about. Conservation, natural resources is our airports and our soil and water areas, how they're classified. And then economic development is Mark Jeffers' area. So that's just a comparison of expenditures between 2025, 2026, and 2027 proposed budgets. So you can see how the expenditures compared in those areas. You can see that general government has increased from 2025 to 2027. From 8.93 million to 10.1 million. Public safety has increased from 9.27 million to 9.87 million. Sanitation has actually gone down, and our culture, recreation, and the other ones have increased also. And again, just kind of a bar chart to see how those compare year after year as a visual. So just as an overview of our expenditures, again, salaries and benefits are the largest driver. When I prepared these slides, it was 1.188463. It was 74% of the total expenditure increase. Taking into consideration that payroll contingency that we're talking about, the 2% reduction, that would bring that down to $880,128 for your information. Contract and service agreements went up about $111,000. The greatest increase in that is our IT service agreements. And then we had an increase of $264,000 in capital expenditures, primarily equipment and planned capital needs. And then our insurance, right now, I didn't budget much for an insurance increase. I kind of kept it steady. We haven't heard anything from MCIT yet as far as what our insurance increase will be. So I didn't put anything into the general fund as an increase, just a slight. What you'll see there is that $32,000 is actually, we budgeted $30,000 in IT area to cover our cyber attack co-insurance that we have to pay.
Yes, so what those deductibles are for, when we have a cyber-related incident such as an email breach or similar, that is our insurance deductible to have a forensic team look at that and get the breach coach to guide us through the process of doing the legal notifications that we are required to do. Previously, that has been an unbudgeted expense billed to whichever department has been unfortunate enough to have suffered that breach. IT is going to consolidate those costs, and now it becomes a budgeted expense. We will hopefully not have to use that money, and whatever doesn't will get pushed into reserves and maintained as a fund for that specific purpose.
Good clarification.
How much did we use this year?
Probably about 20,000 so far.
Okay, thank you.
No, in 2026.
2026.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So we've had 2 investigations, which is going to be about 2 deductibles, so.
Okay, thank you.
So this is kind of our general fund overview. I didn't break out multiple of the departments. The majority of the departments is, again, the salary increases. They don't have a lot of fluctuation in their individual line items that they're dealing with. So if you guys want any more detail on anything, just please let me know and I can come back and present that too. So coming down to budget considerations, and again, this is kind of looking at the overall budget and levy increase as a whole. Again, when I put this information together, we were looking at 11.59% increase. So some of the options to consider, and which have been past discussions as far as levy considerations, is our amount that we give to our appropriations, which I will be talking about a little bit more in my next presentation. And then also our commissioner salaries have always been a discussion as part of our budgeting process. So taking those 2 pieces into consideration, if we would hold our requested appropriations at a 0 and not fund, so we got 2 different things going on. One is we got a request from Angels. We haven't had a request from Angels in 4 years, I believe. So their request was $30,000. In the past years, we haven't had a request. So this number, taking out the 105, would be Angels at a 0, like previous years. And then the other discussion point on appropriations is a legal opinion that we received that was given to our county auditors, CLA. They requested our attorney look at our appropriation process and the eligibility for a couple organizations. One was CARE and one was Support Within Reach. The legal opinion from the attorney was that per statute, CARE is covered under Minnesota Statute 471.935. In that statute, it states a statutory or home rule charter city, county, or town may appropriate money to support the facilities, programs, and services of a public or private, non-for-profit senior citizen center or youth center. So considering the services that CARE provides, the attorney thought that they would qualify for the appropriation. However, his research revealed that there's no specific authority for the county to appropriate or donate money to a private nonprofit sexual assault program such as Support Within Reach. So this piece, this 105,800, is holding all appropriations at a 0 increase. It's not appropriating any money to Angels, so not filling their $30,000 request. And it's not funding Support Within Reach because we don't have statutory authority. Now, the county, and Dave can fill in better too, the county board could make a decision to fund Support Within Reach in a different manner by contracting with them or doing a different process with them, but they do not qualify for our appropriation process.
Kathleen,
Yes.
not to get ahead, how about SWCD?
SWCD, they would be held at 0 increase also.
Okay,
And they did request an increase this year also, but, so this 105,800 would be all appropriations at a 0 increase from 26 to 27. And no extra funding, i.e. Angels, no additional funding.
thank you.
Yes. And then the other thing I put in there is reducing, so the commissioners are currently budgeted at a 7% increase along with all the other, staff process that we did. And in previous years, just following suit, we've reduced to 3%. So I just kind of calculated that out to give you an idea. So that would, at this time, would have brought, with those two reductions in expenditures, would have brought the levy increase down to 10.99%. Now, figuring in the payroll contingency amount, if you figure in payroll contingency expenditure reduction, holding appropriations at a zero, not funding support within reach and not funding angels, and funding commissioners at 3%, that would leave our overall levy increase at a 9.37%.
What happens if, you figured commissioners at a zero?
It'd be 8,000 less.
Yeah,
8,000 less.
Yeah, it'd be another 8,000.
so it'd be about another 16, it'd be total about 16,000 total. Which would be another 0.05%. So that's what we're kind of looking at right now. And oh, the other thing I have on there with numbers is just to kind of give you guys a dollar amount to kind of picture where we're going as I'm asking for direction from the board. So I'm just going to talk about the bottom number. If we wanted to look at like a 7% increase in levy, we would have another $811,000 to reduce in expenditures.
What was that figure again?
$811,922. That's different than what's up on the board because we're taking into consideration HHS's reduction that they've already taken out too. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys a dollar figure to have in your mind as we're having discussions about the levy and where we want to go and the direction that you guys want to see. And that's what I guess I'm here today for, is to present the budget, kind of an overall of the budget. Road and Bridge, Health and Human Services, Sheriff's Department will be in later to talk more detail about their budgets. But I just wanted to present the overall first picture of it, what it is to you guys, so we can have direction as we go forward and direction to the budget committee. We'll be meeting again at the end of August to discuss this further and talk about things, but we want to look at our appropriation funding levels and amounts. We want to talk about the commissioner's salary. Those items I like to get set early just because it helps when we move forward in final budget presentation to know where we're standing on those amounts, if we can get those established. And then what do we want to see for a levy increase? Like, what is the board comfortable with? What's our level that we don't want to go above? And what's our comfort level using fund balance? And what other priorities or adjustments we want to use? We've tried to use fund balance in the past to do one-time purchases and not use them for ongoing operating. We do have some assigned or restricted balances we're looking at that we want to see if we have expenditures that qualify or are appropriate to use. That just saves our unassigned fund balance to use for, well, it gives us open opportunities. If something comes up for the county, we have better option to use those if we need that. So,
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Commissioner Sample?
when you talk about restricted, what are we talking about?
okay, so restricted fund balance is restricted in different manners. Some are restricted by statute, some are restricted by grants, some are restricted by the funding organization that gives them. So Road and Bridge, Health and Human Services, we kind of consider those as restricted fund balances. Health and Human Services especially, they have a lot of federal and state grants that come into them, and so they're very restricted on how they can use those funds. We also have funds that we have public safety aid that the Sheriff's Department received that is restricted by statutory guidelines on how that can be funded. They have some other funding in that area too. What we consider unassigned is just overall open general fund balance that doesn't have any restrictions on it, that has been gained either by levy or whatever, that doesn't have any restrictions on usage, that's unassigned fund balance.
Okay, but like when we talk about the sheriff's restricted, that's at his discretion?
I believe the public safety aid is under the sheriff's discretion.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So the restrictions are from statute, right? And they're pretty broad. And I guess the question is it's allocated to the county. This particular money was allocated in December 2023. And so how it's spent, I think, is a conversation between the county commissioners and the sheriff, right? It's restricted for public safety related purposes. There's quite a broad laundry list of items that are eligible for use. Both current expenditures, crisis mental health services, equipment. So it's very broad as to what it can be spent on. To my knowledge, it has not been allocated, right? It's been assigned, it's reserved, but it's not appropriated for a specific use. So it's not a budgeted item, it's just sitting in the reserve. Does that answer your question?
Kind of, because to me, the sheriff, that fund was set aside for public safety, right?
Yep.
So our sheriff should lead that discussion on what we're gonna spend that money for, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but by statute, wasn't that given to our sheriff's department for public safety? So before we allocate money to it, I think the sheriff should be the lead in that, because he's kind of your controller of our public safety money. Or am I wrong in that?
Oh, no, absolutely. I would expect the sheriff would have ideas and thoughts on how to use that money.
Thank you.
Yep, I think that's an ongoing discussion, is like, where are our funds reserved? What ones are restricted? We have reserved funds too that have been set aside for different projects. Are those projects getting completed? Are we, are those expenditures coded where they should be coded? Are there areas that we could use some restricted funds that we could be using them? And just to have those discussions and make sure that, I just want to make sure we're using restricted and reserved before we're using unassigned, because it gives the county and the commissioners more flexibility to have more unassigned available to use if we have needs,
Absolutely.
if that makes sense.
Yes.
It does.
Thank you.
But I just wanted clarification
Yep.
by statute. Thank you.
So I guess that's what I'm looking for. We can have more discussion regarding the appropriation funding level, because I have another presentation on that next. But just, I guess, to get a feel from the commissioners as far as when the budget committee gets together and we talk about this budget some more, what you guys are looking at as far as your comfort levels and levy increase and whatever you want to share with us going forward.
Commissioners?
Well, the board knows where I stand on commissioners' wages and salaries, 0%. I think we need to set the standard going forward when we're asking people to tighten their budget. It should come from the top. That's just my recommendation on the commissioner's salaries.
Commensurate with that topic, Kathleen, David, is it October or November where the county board has to establish the forthcoming year's salaries?
If you were gonna set the salaries, you would do them before the end of the year. There's a number of statutes at play. I haven't refreshed all of them. But commissioner salaries would typically be set the year before.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know if there's a particular date other than before the end of the year.
Well, some of you will recall, and this is quite a number of years ago, 26 years ago, roughly, where there was a situation after the election that the sitting county board, 3 members who were defeated, set the salaries for the upcoming year at approximately 50%. And that's why we've tried to make a practice that before the elections, we're going to establish what the commissioner's salaries are.
And I don't know if there is date either. I'll have to talk with David. I think we said it earlier. In previous years, it was commissioner salaries were set when the final levy was set. And just on a budgeting aspect, it just puts a lot of pressure on when you're trying to finalize numbers and figure out what that final levy is.
Right.
I think we did it, I don't remember if we did it in October last year. Just in my opinion,
Prior to the
if we're
election.
able to, by statute and dates, set it early, it would be nice, because it sets that number in order to like then fill in the other, finalize the other budget areas too. If there's discussion among you guys.
Right.
And again, I believe it was more policy than statute for the reasons expressed. Commissioner Westerlin?
Kathleen, do we know what the health insurance coverage is gonna be yet, and when do we know that?
We do not know what health insurance is yet. We do not usually get that until November.
So that's,
Right now, we have it in at about 15%. I believe Bobby put it in at 15% for the majority of departments.
We're looking cash-wise about 300 and some thousand, roughly,
Yeah, I believe so.
in that neighborhood. There again, we're dealing with a lot of unknowns, very monetarily significant unknowns, as Kathleen just pointed out, one of which is Health and Human Services. The other, obviously, the medical insurance.
Yeah, and Chris is here and he did speak a little bit. Our capital, we've tried again to pare down to what is needed and, planned, and we adjusted things that we could adjust. We met with the facilities committee last week before, and discussed those items. General fund, a lot of the expenditures coming from the IT area, and that's just, again, needed
Necessity.
things that we need to operate, so.
Is that because we kicked the can down the road, Chris?
no.
In some cases, yes. So in past years, we have pushed projects back to adjust the budget and,
Right.
Now it's caught up.
well,
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
at some point, the projects need to be done.
absolutely.
At the same time, as John Welly pointed out, energy costs have increased. Energy costs directly affect my IT costs, so my equipment costs have also increased. It's just the reality of the world that we live in.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris. On to the appropriations.
Okay. And I'm just presenting the appropriations today, I guess, as just a overall to have you guys think about it. I'm not necessarily looking for a decision today, but again, want you guys to think about it, so we can make a decision. I would like to make the decision before we set the preliminary levy, just to have.
Which is the
again,
end of September.
End of September, yep. Again, because this is one of the areas where it just helps us to finalize some numbers so we can move forward in other budget areas. So when the board is looking at board appropriations, it should be based on a specific statutory authority, a clearly defined public purpose, in alignment with county policy goals. And the first slide is just an overall shot of what our appropriations so far are. They have been entered into the budget as they were given to us. Sorry, I had a bigger sheet that I printed out and I don't know what I did with it. Anyways, so I've highlighted some numbers. You'll see up top are just some of our dues. I honestly am not quite sure why they are put on this spreadsheet. We just always have put them on this spreadsheet, but these are dues to our organizations that we pay into. Then we have our joint powers, which is our library. We did get a request from our library, so we do have that number. Our Aitkin Airport, I did not get a request from our Aitkin Airport, so that is carried over. We have the McGregor Airport, the Mississippi Headwaters Board, and we no longer have the Snake River watershed. So those are our joint power requests. The library did go up a slight amount of 1.6%. Then the other ones are our appropriations. So when I was talking earlier about holding our appropriations at zero and not funding new requests. So this is the area that I'm talking about. Soil and water, we have historically funded soil and water. At one point, they were receiving $50,000 from Concon. A couple years ago, that was reduced to $25,000, and then last year it was reduced to zero. They have requested that $50,000 back. Currently, I have that budgeted out of the general fund as part of their appropriation. Honestly, Dennis wasn't too comfortable funding out of Concon just because there's other pieces coming down against Concon. And the fund balance in Concon is decreasing. Then we have CARE. Their request is an increase of $20,800. The Historical Society had a 3.2% increase that is kind of broken down between their general and their insurance, and that increase, the largest piece is from their request. That went up from $26,250 to $27,300. And then the Ag Society held steady, so those are appropriations. Then down below, we have what we labeled as additional organizations. Our Angels, again, they haven't had a request lately. Their request for 2027 was $30,000. And then support within reach, which we have the legal opinion does not statutorily qualify as an appropriation. And then nothing from AEOA. So that's just a current look at those appropriation requests.
Kathleen, on the Historical Society, do we yet, maybe you covered this, if so, I apologize. Do we know what the increase in insurance is yet?
No, we do not. We have not heard anything from MCIT yet as far as what their projected increases are.
And for the sake of the public, there's two appropriations to the Historical Society. One is basically a subsidy. The other one is to cover their insurance. And insurance, it's a very volatile situation, as we all know. That was the basis of my question. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Kathleen,
Yes.
I want to bring up, I sit on the Joint Counties Natural Resource Board, and I know it's only $1,000, but I go to Bemidji every other month for that. And it doesn't have anything to do with our counties. You know, there's nobody from Itasca County on it, nobody from Cass County on it, Mille Lacs County. I just question whether I don't see where we get anything out of it. The things they talk about is the ditching for out there. They talk about the things that affect the western part, the northwest part of the state. So to me, I think that would be a committee that we could withdraw from. And I know it's a savings of only $1,000, but $1,000 here and $1,000 there, to me, it all adds up. I would recommend to the board, being the commissioner on that we withdraw from the Joint Counties Natural Resource Board because we get nothing out of it.
And I don't know if that necessarily is germane to this. We're not giving an appropriation, are we?
Yes,
Yes.
$1,000.
$1,000,
Well, we're paying our dues.
your dues.
Under the dues, okay.
And that could be a question, that's paid out of DJ's account, Dennis Thompson, the land commissioner. That could be a question I could ask him to see what his recommendation on that would be too, if he has another benefit that you're not aware of. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that board.
True.
I know when I don't make it, Commissioner Kearney does, and I have not heard anything.
If I might, Sheriff, if we're gonna participate in boards, they have to be beneficial to the county. This one is not. I mean, if we decided to pull out of this one and maybe join a joint natural resources board with Itasca and Cass and that deals with, I see
Our
Andrew in here,
problems.
but our wetlands and our water and our ditching would make sense. I think Commissioner Westerland and myself are looking at another one, the ACA. Is it really beneficial to doing that since we have other organizations? So there's
Yeah.
ways to cut some funding there also. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, there has been talk with the MRCC to maybe hopefully combine with, get
Absolutely.
some of them other northern counties together with MRCC.
Right.
Because that's the Minnesota, Rurals County Caucus.
And I would support that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's more beneficial to Aiken County.
There's a few commissioners from that group that do sit on
Right.
the northern counties. But yeah, I know I have never sat on that board, so.
I think that's a very germane discussion. In addition, some of us don't put in for mileage, I don't. But, and I'm not begrudging anybody that does, but for those that do, there's also a mileage factor.
There is. I mean, it's. a
At
long drive.
75 cents a mile right now. Somewhere in there, Kathleen?
Yeah, because it increased.
Yeah,
And I take mine off my taxes, I don't turn it in.
same here. I
So,
haven't claimed an expense in years. But I'm not begrudging.
No.
Just in general discussion, and I'm not advocating or suggesting a change, but does the Mississippi Headwaters Board really need the 1,500?
no. Are you talking about being a member of the Mississippi Headwater Board?
I'm talking about what
That's our
they're,
dues, yes, we need to be a part of that, but they also, later in the budget, there'll be a request for funding. Excuse me, clarification, that's AUA, I'm sorry.
But here's my thing on the Mississippi Headwaters Board, is that in AIS, we give them a lot of money every year. And then when it was brought to light and we questioned it, we found out we were paying like, what was it, Mark, 70%?
that's why, that was the basis of my concern.
So I think we've overpaid the Mississippi Headwaters, and we need to look at that.
We can look at that. That is a joint powers though, so that's a different agreement.
That's a whole different animal.
Not like a due or a,
No, this, I chair
know.
that committee and that board, and it does have a benefit to our county. We have the
does.
longest stretch of the Mississippi River.
We're the longest in the.
In the United States.
Yeah, so, I think that's for another discussion.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting we withdraw as a joint powers, but they are also looking, AIS, Aiken County Water Planning Task Force. They've requested and received money there, but just something to keep our eye on.
Okay.
I will ask Dennis regarding the joint powers on the natural resources to look at that one.
Good.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, David?
on that Natural Resources Board, the Joint Powers just requires a 30-day written notice, so it's not a hard exit, and there's no
Okay.
time during the year that you have to give it.
Thanks for that clarification. So Kathleen, you're looking for direction on,
Yeah, so just kind of looking for some direction on the appropriations. Here's a breakdown. So soil and water, in 2026, we gave them 81,549. In 2027, they're requesting 131,549. It's an increase of $50,000. They're requesting to reinstate the appropriation of $50,000 from CONCON, which was phased out. We did discuss that at the budget committee, and the recommendation is not to approve the increase. The CONCON cash balance has been decreasing, and CONCON is also used to support the survey department and highway department projects. So, in discussing this with Dennis, he felt he just didn't feel like that was a good use of CONCON funds at this time.
Can I ask a question here, Mr. Chair?
absolutely.
$50,000 increase, was there justification on why they needed that money? I mean, my thing is, anybody can request anything, but when budgets are tight and we don't know what state funding's gonna do, I would think if I asked for a $50,000 bump, I would have a letter of justification that the board then would have to decide on, does this meet the justification?
There was a request, and the request was reviewed by the budget committee, and that's where their recommendation is coming from.
Okay, thank you.
I support the budget committee.
I mean, that's why we have the budget committee, is it not?
To make a recommendation to the full board.
And we can share those requests with the whole board if you want to see them, but the budget committee did review those requests.
Okay, I was just curious if they give a letter of justification and why they needed that increase.
Yeah, all the appropriations who requested funds gave a letter of their request and why they wanted the funds.
Okay, because I do know that AIS, which is ran by Soil and Water, Marcus, we both sit on that committee. We know that their funding is going away real quick in big dollars.
Another independent factor at the SWCD, and they are an independent entity of the county. I believe they have levy authority, I think. But the distinguishing factor, we're providing them rent space. Historically, out of their budget, they paid rent. And when we brought them into the government center, there was some arrangement to offset that. I don't know where that stands right now.
Yeah, and I don't remember the details on that. Because there's been some adjustments, and that kind of happened before my time.
Yeah.
And I have a file with the information in it, but I haven't looked at it
I
recently.
can look back in my files too, but it is another distinguishing factor.
Okay.
The next one is CARE. In 2026, they were funded at $55,000. Their request for 2027 is $75,800. It's an increase of $20,800. This request is large. It represents a 50% increase from the 2024 appropriation. The Budget Committee recommendation is not to support this increase. It's the largest appropriation given outside the Joint Powers Agreements. And the Budget Committee would be in favor of decreasing the CARES appropriation.
To what, may I ask?
What's the budget
To
committee?
be determined.
And Mr. Chair, I
David?
think there was some conversation and recognition of the request from Angels that there wasn't an appetite to increase the total appropriation amount because of the tight budget situation, but there was recognition that Angels perhaps should be given some consideration. And if there was a consideration for Angels, that perhaps would come out of the CARE appropriation, as those are two similar organizations in the population they're serving.
And commensurate with a lot of the emails we've received here, the common theme seems to be senior citizen,
It is. Absolutely.
regardless of who's doing it. And I think that was kind of the crux of the discussion
Yeah,
at our budget
agreed.
meeting.
And I think that's gonna be, age-wise, we're still the oldest county. Age-wise population, are we not?
That's what I hear.
Absolutely, we are. We are.
Kathleen, if you want to go through, then we'll come back and
Sure, that sounds good. The next one is the Historical Society. 2026 is $32,513, which includes insurance. The 2027 request is $33,563, including insurance. It's an increase of $1,050. Budget Committee was unsure of their what they wanted to recommend because of the insurance increase. Not sure what the insurance coverage is going to be or what that looks like yet, or their support for this. Then there's the support within reach request. They did increase their request from $3,000 to $5,000, which is a $2,000 increase. And again, per the audit request and the response to that, we don't have specific authority to allow the county to appropriate money to support within reach. There are other methods such as contracting if the county would still like to support the organization. And then Angels, in 2026, we did not have an appropriation to Angels. In 2027, we have a request for $30,000. It's an increase of $30,000. Angels has, like I say, has not requested appropriation since 2022, and at that time, the appropriation request was $3,631. And the budget committee wanted to provide some level of support. And again, that goes back to that discussion balancing out with CARE and CARE's increased request.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Go back one slide.
Where are we going?
Support within reach.
Right there.
Okay.
Now, county attorney says that we don't get we can't support them out of that request. So that's a savings of $3,000, right? Okay.
Well, and actually in this budget, it would be a savings of 5,000, because I do have it in the budget at 5,000 right now.
So
Haven't
it's a
taken
savings
it
of
out.
$5,000. Okay.
Yeah, and just to put a very fine point on the opinion as I understand it, is the county does not have the authority to make a donation to that organization.
Right.
If there were services that that organization provided that the county wanted to support in some way, we could explore the potential of doing a contract for services that would pay directly for some set of services that potentially would qualify.
But then, correct me if I'm understanding this right. If we were gonna do a contract with them for services, that's already in somebody's budget, is it not, or no?
No. No,
Okay.
it's trying to just find another way to support the organization, because it can't be done as a straight donation.
Right.
Okay.
So am I hearing correctly that this would be stricken as an appropriation for this year with the option of taking a different approach?
How would they be able to qualify? What would they have to do to qualify for?
Well, that's what
appropriation.
David
I think
is.
Right.
we would need to look at the services they offer, find out which ones of them aligned with governmental services. Counties have the authority to spend money on victim assistance, for example. So if the people they are working with are victims of crime, potentially we could do a contract for service that would include those aspects.
But true or false, it appears that they do not qualify for an outright appropriation.
True.
Thank you.
And again, this is information for you. I'm not looking for necessarily a full decision from the board today. I wanted you guys to kind of soak in this information. Again, the budget committee does have the information. We did request financials from CARE and from Angels, just due to the respect of those requests. We did not receive financials from Angels, but we did receive the CARE's financials. Those were shared. So I guess I'm asking now for you to consider these requests, and
We're not making a decision on it
we're not
today.
making a decision on it today. It will be for, I'll bring it back to the board for
Right.
further discussion. We'll discuss it more at the budget committee, but.
But as of
wanted
now,
everybody
you're
to-
looking for general direction, line item for each of these. So, commissioners, the floor is open for discussion.
Well, I think that CARE has proven themselves in the last, we have been around since the 80s, different entities through CARE. We put ourselves out there for transportation. I think that's a huge part of what's going on in our county. We need to be very helpful in that situation, just because insurance is, we all know, insurance is eating everyone's wages alive. I think ARDC had a great letter. I don't know if y'all read it or took the time to read it.
Yes?
We could be a great role model for other counties also. So CARE has done a great job at putting themselves together. They have been through so much. And we're finally hitting the road running, and, it hasn't been easy. And that is mainly why I'm not the only commissioner that has ever been on the CARE board. We've got others. Travis was on there, other past commissioners. It's because we do the apportionment. That's why we want a commissioner on there, to keep ahead of the budgets and try to help as best we can. So, thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Westerland. Let's keep the discussion to CARE right at this point. So again, the floor is open. Commissioner Carney?
If you want to just, I don't want to just talk care because we're looking at the whole budget here. What if we take the soil and water, no increase, and we provide care and angels and it's a complete wash? You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. But
Okay,
We can't support angels.
No, we can't
It's
support.
not, we can't donate.
That's support within reach.
that's
What's that?
support within reach,
Right,
not angels.
not angels. Okay, so that's support within
Yeah,
reach.
and Mr. Chair, the county attorney has not directly weighed in on that question, but presuming that the services were towards senior citizens, that seems like it would fit the parameters that the county
Right.
attorney laid out. So we could follow up to verify, but it seems that would be a potential. And again, if it weren't a donation that could be made, you could consider contracting for specific services.
I'd like to go back to my comment here, and the justification is, care and angels are a much-needed services in this county. And I state that because I sat on the AUA Board of Directors. Their budget has been cut $274,000 this year for senior meals. Okay?
I have to
We-
mention, though, that their budget is bigger than Aiken County's alone.
Absolutely, but they've lost that just out of the food services, and we don't know what direction this is going in. We do not know how much more funding is going to be cut from Health and Human Services. We do know that CARE and we do know that the Angels provide a service that keep people in their homes, which is a direct cost reduction to Health and Human Services. We can play with the numbers, we can debate it, but it's a true fact. Okay, the longer people stay in their home, it's the less cost to the county through Health and Human Services if they go onto vouchers. I'm just looking at the numbers there. Soil and water, that's a $50,000, that's a 3% increase. If you didn't fund that, you funded the other two organizations, I could support that. And support within reach, of course, is a non-player.
As a point of clarification, the recommendation from the Budget Committee is not to fund that 50,000 to SWCD.
Right.
So that's kind of phantom money, so to speak.
Right. Well, it all is right now, until we make a decision on how we're gonna fund it.
I'd like to know what they do for fundraising, the Angels and CARE.
I guess it's a
You
question we
know,
could
I mean,
ask
as a nonprofit, I would like to know what they both do for fundraising. Because I know from Angels, they raised $30,000 in less than a month on fundraising. And I think we need to separate the two in a way. You know? And I'd like to look at their budget, you know, when we talk about $1.55 a mile for transportation, somebody in Tamarack or Clark Township or Lawler, that if they gotta go to the doctor in Aitkin, how big a bill do they have? So
Hopefully they have Blue Cross Blue Shield to pay for it.
hopefully, but if they don't,
Right.
I'm just saying, I just would like to see what they both do. And compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges.
And perhaps for the sake of future, and again, today is preliminary of the preliminary. Nothing is etched in stone. It's simply giving general direction.
Absolutely.
Bear that in mind. And that, as Commissioner Sample suggested, that request can be made to each organization.
And I do have CARES financials, so I can share that with you.
Sure.
And as well as to Commissioner Sample's point, to what extent are they making money fundraising per se?
And I don't know if it for sure
I don't know if
sticks
that
out.
covered that.
And donations.
And
Right,
donations.
and donations, sure.
And, you
Absolutely.
know what I mean? I understand that CARE covers more of the county than Angels does. But the people in the fourth district are just as important as the people in the first district or the second district. And I just think we need to look at what each one's doing. Because if we're, and how they're charging when they transport people. I think we need to look at both and look at what they're doing for fundraising.
I think Commissioner LaVista has.
Yep, Mr. Chair.
Oh, Commissioner LaVisca?
First off, I'm going to preface all of this and the overarching discussion of what I see in a lot of emails and requests and support. Obviously, as people support things, they're going to be passionate about it. But I think it's really important that we sidestep that kind of perception or the narrative that whatever we decide, if we decide not to fund this or that, that's not personal, that's not a level of support. This is tax dollars that we're talking about here. This isn't my personal money to give out. This is money coming in from all of the taxpayers that then it gets appropriationed out. So what I look at, I would like to go off a commissioner's sample. I'd like to know kind of fundraising levels. We have financials, if we could get financials from Angels. And then I'd like to see kind of a map of your coverages. Are you getting down to Geezy? Are you getting to Lawler? Are you getting to McGrath? I want to know that. So as this discussion goes, and again, there's no decisions being made, but as this discussion goes, my heart goes out to people in need. And at a certain point, we're going to get to the point where we're overtaxing the people we're trying to help, and they're going to lose their homes anyways, once we get to that point. So again, there's a lot of discussion to be had, but the most important aspect to remember here is that we're talking tax dollars that everybody in the county pays. So these services, and again, these appropriations are not guaranteed. These appropriations aren't statutorily required of us to give out. This is above and beyond what we fund with taxes. So it's just really important to remember that this is tax dollars, and at a certain point, we're gonna be overtaxing the people we're trying to help, especially with HHS cuts that we have coming down the pipe.
And you know, I would like to kind of piggyback off of that. This is, to me, a lot of kind of what we're gonna be going through in the future with their fire districts, or ambulance districts, I should say. You know, they're all operating at a loss with the cutting fundings. So this, what we're trying to do is, I think this is a great training for lack of better words.
If I could add, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaVisca?
As the discussions progress, we just need to keep in mind that as HHS funding is dropping, we are statutorily required to maintain those services.
Just a little point of direction. David, commensurate with Commissioner Sample's request, could you formally request, what were the items again? The amount of fundraising and?
The amount of fundraising, the cost of transportation that's charged to our people, and a copy of the Angels budget and where they stand, where both of them stand on their fundraising for next year's budget.
Okay, yes, we will do that.
And that would be
And the areas they covered was Commissioner LaVista's request, Mr. Chair.
And if that could be incorporated as a formal request, David, I think it'd be the appropriate route for that.
Will do.
Super. And that would be advantageous for the Budget Committee and the board as a whole.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So This will be going back to the budget committee. I'll be bringing this back to the board as a whole, but again, wanted to start this conversation so you guys could think about it and let David or I know if you have any other questions or anything that you want to see.
And Mr. Chair, I would be willing to have them give that either to the full board or the budget committee. I have full faith in our budget committee, and that's why we have them. For you guys to look at that. Or if you want, come to the full board.
I think as a member sitting on the budget committee, I think that type of information should be dispersed to everybody, and then you kind of know what we're looking at.
Everything that comes to the budget committee should be dispersed to the full board.
Yep. Yeah, so in regards to like the appropriations letters, just
Send them out.
when we get things like that, give it to all the board members.
So I'll send all that information.
Kathleen,
Watch for emails, you guys.
Are you getting the direction, the preliminary direction you need today? If not,
I'm gonna hold steady on appropriations because we don't have a decision. That's fine. I just want you guys to think about it, so when I come back to the board, you can give me a decision. Because again, I like to have these decisions kind of wrapped up before we get too far into the budget process, because it just helps to get to that final, when we're getting to the finalizing process, so.
and we've got, what, approximately 6 weeks until the preliminary budget? So it's not a lot of time. But commissioners, I'll ask you point blank. You've heard some of the preliminary recommendations or thoughts of the budget committee. Is there any dissension with that direction at this point?
I'm comfortable with it.
Is that the consensus? Again, you've heard the preliminary direction that the budget committee has given on appropriations. Is there any disagreement on that at this point?
What was, let's go back to the Angels. What was the discretion from the budget committee on the Angels? Can you put the slide back up that I can see what they said?
Yeah, it was a recommendation to provide some support, but no specifics
Well,
determined.
that's not, I can't support that. I need to know, I need them to come back and give me a number.
Well, that's
that I can
the purpose of our
But
next budget committee
that's
meeting.
the purpose of having them both come and present.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Now, we have another budget meeting in August, and we have a, board meeting in August, and then we have our preliminary kind of overall wrap-up of the preliminary levy, that first meeting in September, before we make the final decision on preliminary levy at the end of September. So in those two meetings, we can have some additional information come back to you guys too.
Any other comments, direction germane to the appropriations?
My only comment is this, Mr. Chair. I want to piggyback off something Commissioner LaVista said. Just because you don't get the funding you want doesn't mean we do not support or believe in the programs. It's just, as we do the budget, we got to say no to some. That don't mean we don't support what that entity does.
And just as a point of interest and anticipation, there's another thing that has not been addressed, and that's the potential of an EMS taxation district for our ambulance services. We've discussed it on a very preliminary basis before. I had a conversation with North Memorial a couple days ago, and that's still a very critical need for their funding, their subsidies, so.
And that's why I referred to that earlier, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So keep that in mind. And the third and last,
Finally, right?
and this one you need direction on, right?
This one I do need, yes, I need you to please, please pass this resolution.
Commissioners, you've got the documentation, the support data. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Sample, support.
Support.
Motion supported by Commissioner LaVisca. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathleen.
You guys have a great afternoon.
You too. You'll probably have a long night too, won't you?
I'm hoping not too long, but
So
we'll
do
see.
I.
Take care.
Thank you again, Kathleen. Great job. Let's take a 5-minute recess.
Resolutions in there. First, the X in the top right.
You want one to fire line next year?
Control. Then go back to the mics. Now you can.
No, you don't have anybody to help. No lobbyist for ACA.
Right now, we won't have a lobbyist, so what is the purpose?
I think John.
Okay, for the sake of time, let's reconvene, call the meeting back to order. On to item 5, the budget presentation from the county sheriff, Sheriff Dan Gaida. Welcome, Dan.
Welcome, thank you. Good morning. It's nice to be here this morning. I know that Kathleen always sends me an invite like in January saying, here's the timeline for the year. And then the next day it's August and here we go. So we're here today. Time went by fast. So I gave you guys each a packet. The packet is what I base, it's what we look at every year for our budget stuff. It lists all the line items and all the numbers. It's a little more confusing. I know Kathleen a lot of times can put it on the board in IFS, but it makes it difficult for me to understand because it doesn't track. So this is what I go off. So we can go through page by page today. The gist of the budget for this year is the same as the last 2 years for me. It is wages and benefits. No new programs, basically. I know that we added a boat and water officer last year, and so that was the only thing that was kind of a deviant, and that would continue, that position still funded, and we're good. But so as a whole, I can tell you that looking at the end of the year, it's a 7.67 for the sheriff's office, and of course, you're aware that the wages are 7%, which is 65% of the budget, and the rest of it just is kind of trickle up. So I wish that number was smaller. I wish it was at 3 or 4%. Unfortunately, the cost of services for everybody, whether it's IT or sheriff's office or anybody else, goes up. Fuel didn't go down. We hope it goes down, but it doesn't. Some things like that affect us. So if you want to start on page 1, it's autopsies and coroner. That's a mandated thing. It's been the same every year, although there's some scuttle going on down in Ramsey County where we currently contract services. We have a 3-year contract with them, so we are now looking at potentially some other services. There's some other things closer. The costs haven't shown that they're going to be greatly significant, an increase or a decrease. It looks like they're pretty much standard. They know what everyone's paying, so that doesn't change. I did research the idea with Riverwood that if they could have a space and a seat, if they could find a medical examiner and we put them at Riverwood, we'd save a significant amount in transports and some other things. They looked at it and they weren't sure that it would work for them, but I will re-engage again as we come into this because I think it's important to try to get as many services close to home as we can. I did speak with some other sheriffs around the area and they would be willing to participate, so that was kind of a thing, and this change with Ramsey County might be the little spur in the bone that makes us change, so.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaVisca.
What if we even talked about working with Crow Wing County if CRMC could put something in a facility, like you said, anywhere close?
Yep, yeah, that's a potential. The biggest thing that we look at when we consider this is an expert person that's essentially investigating deaths for us.
Right.
We do the initial death investigation, and they're the ones that provide a report to say, there's toxicology here. I had a little bit of a train wreck earlier this year, just for some historical perspective. We had a lady that was convinced her mom was murdered, and her mom was deceased. She was transported by ambulance while she was still alive, and it ended up going to Duluth. And their Ramsey County, or their examiner is different than ours. And I saw some things that I was not impressed with. I saw some evidence collection that did not happen. I saw a bunch of things that I wasn't happy with. So I couldn't go back to this person and without a doubt say that your mom wasn't murdered. And I can't imagine the feeling that she has, knowing that her mom's been buried for 10 years, but that she can't say without a doubt, thinking there might have been a killer there, that her mom might have been poisoned. Right. They didn't save records, they didn't do toxicologies, they didn't do the things that we need to do for those cases, so.
Dan, I don't know if you can comment publicly, but I'm just curious. And we've been affiliated with the Ramsey County medical examiner for as long as I can remember, have been involved with that.
Well, you remember back in the day we did Brainerd. Remember, was it Terry Molberg?
I was autopsy assistant.
Yeah, you remember that very well, so. And I think after him has been Ramsey County.
Yeah. What are some of the other options?
So the BCA uses somebody in the Northwest in like Fergus Falls right now. They're using them. St. Louis County has their own, but again, I have to look into that service to make sure it's not the service that was there. There's another one in Central, but the majority of the people in the Central Minnesota use Ramsey County. Cass County does. Morrison County does. I know Mille Lacs County does. I think some of the eastern end go to Duluth, you know, just for proximity, but we're kind of in that dead zone.
And Duluth is an option.
Duluth could be an option, yes.
And I'm just thinking of the mileage factor. Right now, for Macon, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes road time.
Right.
And Duluth is substantially less.
Yeah, there might be other ways to cut that transport number down a bit. We've always contracted. Of course, the reason we contract with that service is because we want basically a guarantee that it's potentially evidence transfer. You know, and we don't allow normal evidence transfer. You can't just hire a taxi company to haul your evidence to the lab. So that's kind of the deal. We had to do some training initially. So.
And Mr. Chair, that's kind of what I'd like to point out, because you had mentioned, you know, your medical examiner is another investigator. So whatever we do use, you need to be assured that you're getting the proper evidence taken off that we need. So,
Exactly. Thank you. So that's where that one is. It's a lot of discussion for a $75,000 item, but that's where that is. Then we can move on to enforcement, which is our 200 in accounting in the IFS. If we start right at the top, the police state aid, you'll see that we have it budgeted for 200,000 income this year. We believe that's gonna happen, but we never know until we get the check. That's money the state of Minnesota gives us and says, here you go every year. They have said it's gonna come down. I believe it'll be for the following year's budget, so we kept it where it is. So the second item, although it's small, $10,000 we budget, that's the Philando Castile Training Fund that we get for all of our officers that do training. Let's say we go to a class and we get 6 post credits, they pay us by post credits. In the last 8 years, we've significantly changed our training procedures, and so we do the majority of our training in-house. So we don't actually have to pay a lot of money for training, although some classes we do. So like our field training officer or a background investigator or a few of those things, we outsource those, and so we have to pay for those. So that wouldn't be a giant crush on us, but it's money, you know, 10 grand is 10 grand, so. And again, we believe we're good for 2027. The next one down is school resource officer grant. We have that for the next 2 years full, this year plus the next 2 years. It's a 4-year where we pay 3 years worth of the wage, or they pay 3 years with the wage and we pay the 4th year to guarantee it's done. It's kind of like a 75-25 split. The school in McGregor does pay some into that position as well, which is a benefit to us. So that's kind of a cost neutral, and that's solid. We can bank on those numbers. I guess when I say bank, I should also tell you, I do really appreciate the relationship we have with Kathleen. She's a banker. She doesn't care about what the fund is. She doesn't care about what the numbers are. She just wants to know the banking part. Right. And that's not nice. I'm not a banker. I'm a cop. So it works out well. So
Hey, Dan,
Jen and Kathleen have done a good job preparing this. So
in that 30,000, you said McGregor kicks in?
on the 4th year, they split with us. Yes.
Okay,
They
does
kick
Hill
in.
City or Aitkin?
So we don't currently provide services to the school in Hill City or Aitkin. The Aitkin Police Department does, and the Hill City. I believe they apply for the same grant that we do. I don't know if they were successful.
All right, thank you.
So, the AIS grant, as we know, you know, that's money routed through the county, and where that ends, we don't know. We have been flexible with it in the past. We're gonna continue doing what we do. We're gonna continue to enforce AIS, regardless if we get that funds or not. So if that's a tool that the commissioners can use to, you know, kind of supplement somewhere else, I'm fine with that as well. And we've had that discussion in the budget committee and the AIS committee as well. We're not gonna go through line by line because it'll take us a week, but, again, the SRO grants through 2028. If you go down to miscellaneous receipts, that's money we get from like last year we made $3,000 from Howie's Mud Bog. We provide security for them. We mandated in their permit that they have to have a certain amount of security just because of the public, it's almost a public nuisance. We had so many calls and stuff. We've worked that. We've got it to a world where there's a lot less calls than there used to be, so we keep reducing services that we provide them. This year we contracted with Sherwood Forest Campground because they were kind of out of control down there. We were getting lots of calls, and we actually have staff swinging through there on a at-will basis, and they reimburse us for the money that we do that. We also did that with Libby Dam, the Corps of Engineers. It's not a big number, but they couldn't provide security for their own contracting reasons, so we came up with an agreement with them, and they're gonna pay us some money at the end, and so that's where that money comes in. It's hard to predict long-term, but we're making some money this year. We have also the opportunity, and I guess I would, maybe it's an offline discussion with individual commissioners for your districts, but the potential to bill for some services that we provide for free. As an example, like the Aitkin Police Department, we dispatch for them for nothing. The Hill City Police Department, we dispatch for them for nothing. A lot of places in Minnesota provide some payment for those services. We don't charge for those services because we value that relationship, but there's potential for money making there. Ironically, when you look at some of those services like the fire departments as well, the fire departments have their own tax line and they get their own business, but the dispatch part, it does cost us some money. So as an example, this year when they tore down the water tower, the UHF VHF paging system, the estimate to repair it was to move it from there to there was $122,000. Right. That comes out of my budget. No one knew it was coming. We potentially could use public safety aid funds for that. We could use a couple other things for that. I'm hoping that we've whittled and increased our budget income enough this year that we don't have to. We also were able to whittle that down to about 70 grand instead of 122. So still a very sizable chunk of money, but some of those services that we give, it's just the whole county. And granted, it's a benefit to the whole county, but when you look at like the Aitkin Police Department, do people from McGregor benefit from the Hill City or the Aitkin? Probably not, but they all pay for the dispatch. So again, a conversation we can have on the side. And then we go into staffing expenses, and you are very familiar with those so we don't even really need to talk about them. We'll skip all the way down to that 6360 number. We have a wellness program that we've always had because I think it's critical to keep our staff happy. It's critical to keep our staff healthy, so you can't always see the mental trauma that people get from going to a suicide call or a car accident where little kids are killed or something like that. And I want to make sure that the critical incidents are handled on this end so we don't have to deal with them as a PTSD situation on the back end.
And I would like to thank you for that, because that's the one thing our military never did, was dealt with the PTSD, and you dealing with it on the front, to me, is very commendable. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're trying. I feel that same pain that the deputies do. I've been through 30-some years of law enforcement, and it's stuff you can't unerase. You can't unsee it from your mind. So, but in that breath, the state of Minnesota has also recognized that that's important, and so they've done some legislative work to try to fund some programs like that, which we already have the numbers. We've been reimbursed, or we're going to be reimbursed for this year's program, and it looks like there's a grant for next year's program. We've applied for it. It's complete. So that should be a little bit of money that we might be able to take in, but we have no idea how much. So there's another a few dollars there that we might be able to sharpen the pencil a little bit on. So we can skip through education, K-9. You guys are all familiar with those. The K-9 program is really good. It's a program that has saved lives. It's a program that does good public service. We use it in the school. It's for drugs. It's for tracking. We don't have a bite dog. We have a black lab, and she's been nothing but a benefit. The few times that people come into my office and say, "Sheriff, how you doing? We want to give you money." The few times they come in, they ask, "What can we support?" And generally, their first thing they want to support is the K-9 program. They really like that K-9 program. So that program will kind of continue to provide some supplemental funding on its own. So,
Sheriff?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's great that you have a black lab instead of a German Shepherd, just because it's like having a pit bull. I mean, people are afraid of them, and they should be afraid of a dog if they don't know the dog, but a black lab is a little more happier, a little more but he's probably really smart.
Having the support of the public is huge.
Yep.
In today's times more than ever. And if we don't have that, it's not gonna go well.
No.
Right?
Well,
We have to have trust with the people.
I loved your dog back in the day. That was a German Shepherd, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loki,
Yeah. The one you had when we were playing softball together.
Yeah.
Like way
Omen.
back when. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have German Shepherds and I wouldn't have any other dog, but.
Yeah. But public perception of a shepherd is different than a lab, so
Yeah.
regardless of training. So,
We should get a poodle next time.
yeah. And all that program costs us a little bit. The initial cost, most agencies have a $20,000 to $30,000 initial cost. We didn't have anything. With the handler we have now, he was currently trained and certified. He trained the dog for nothing. It's been a win-win for everybody, so that's real value for us. We can zip down to gun permits. I know there was a question at one point about the gun permits fees. Those fees can be used for anything directly related with gun permits. And when I say directly related, I mean directly related. So we use a printer to print off the gun permits. That printer is paid for by that gun permit fees. The secretary that do the backgrounds and all the paperwork for those, that's directly paid for by that. So it's a fund that can only be used for some things. We also use that fund, and I think I mentioned this in an email to the budget committee, but we provide some of those funds to the county attorney's office for legal reviews of gun permits. I might get a person that had a crime maybe 8 years ago, and there's a question about whether it was a prohibited thing, and things have changed over that time. They do a great job of providing me input, which I think is important. It keeps us out of court.
And I'd like to commend you on your gun permit fees. Giving the veterans a break who served our country. Hear it at every gun class I give. Wow. Our county gives a damn. Thank you.
Yeah. I hope that someday more people like that move into our county, come and pay taxes and do this because they see the little things that we do, and then they come provide the big things. And I think I shouldn't say that I hope, I'm seeing that happen. We see a lot of people with the new gun permits that come in, a lot of people that are proud of their service. Sure. It isn't a thing that's gonna affect my budget. It's not gonna affect the commissioners. It's not gonna affect the taxes. We had that money, that budget kept growing, and I thought, how do we move this in the right direction? That was a real easy solution for me. So we'll continue to do that for the next few years and see how it goes. But thank you for the support. And that concludes that page. We'll go back to the Violent Crimes Enforcement Team. I don't know, there's not numbers on the pages, but it says VSET on top.
Yep, next page.
So basically the VSET pays for a full administrative secretary who, hate to even say this out loud, but she's been very helpful in our office as well. She's doing more duties than what she was originally required to do. So we do gain some benefit on that. That pays for that position, it pays for the office, and it pays for all the overtime that they use. The base salary still comes out of the sheriff's office budget for Greg payment, and that's where that money is on the bottom. Next one's the boat and water budget. The boat and water budget increased from 2026 to 2027 about $20,000, but it was essentially the same or a little bit less even than 2025. It's based on money coming in. We get money for some enforcement. We get money for different things, and that comes from the state. So, as you guys mentioned earlier, that's kind of an unknown. It'll continue to be an unknown. Our lake coverage has more than doubled. Our ATV coverage has more than doubled, and our snowmobile coverage has more than doubled for miles on the trails, miles on the water. And that's simply because with two officers doing the same job, the one officer doesn't need to worry about playing catch up so much. If there's calls carried over from the day when he was off, or there's other issues. And then the other thing is in the summertime when it's busy, you never know if you're going to be in a boat accident on Mille Lacs or a boat accident on Hill Lake or a response to crazy boating operation in Big Sandy. And having two officers at one time on the busy weekends allows one to be out there actually working proactive and one to kind of do the reactive. So I believe that was money well spent, and we're going to keep that. We're going to keep moving forward with that with the same costs. So snowmobile, we answered that. Snowmobile enforcement, same. Basically coming on ATV is the exact same as those. We're down to corrections. Corrections is one of those budgets that, when you look at the amount of population we have in our facility, you look at the amount of employees we have in our facility, it kind of bothers me a little bit. I don't know the value there for costs compared to what it was when we were bringing in $300,000 a year for inmate revenue for housing out. And, of course, we always knew that was going to be the case. We knew when we built the jail, that was presented to the commissioners that were here before. I'm sure some of you remember that we're a hotel for other agencies because their jails are all failing. Now they've all built new jails and we're not getting that. So some of it's payback, but we anticipated it. We kind of got to take the good years with the bad years. And I haven't done the numbers looking backwards to see what the inmate welfare was. I know it wasn't represented accurately in the first budget I got 8 years ago. So we've tried to nickel that down to where it should be, and I think we're pretty accurate now. So I will tell you this, that our employees there, although they're young, are doing great things in that facility. The people that go to that facility don't want to come back because they're embarrassed when they come back. They're embarrassed that, they've made promises to the inmate workers that said, I'm never coming back here again, although they take care of it. I can also tell you that great things are happening in our jail. When we look at mental health, sometimes people end up in our facility because there's nowhere else for them. There's no hospital beds, there's no beds for them. They end up in our facility because they commit a crime. They're getting the help they need in that facility. So That's a huge deal. HHS has contributed to some of that in the last 2 years. We really appreciate that, some of the mental health counseling these people are getting. Everyone in there at one time in their life was a victim before they became the person that created a victim. So we're trying to address some of those issues before they continue to cause lifelong issues. So again, when I took over 8 years ago, I'd never worked in a jail. I hadn't anticipated what it was like to have a jail. It's kind of like having a giant motel full of your relatives that you might like or not like, but you have to have it, and so that's where we're at. In the last 6 months, I've had the pleasure, pleasure, whatever you want to call it, of sitting down with the Assistant Commissioner, Safia Khan, of the Department of Corrections, and the 2911 law changes were ironed out to benefit, to save. I would tell you that every county in the state of Minnesota saved between $100,000 and $1 million based on the ironing out we've done in the last year with this change coming up. So that's huge. It's preventative, but it's huge.
Right.
We're going to continue to work with them. We have a great relationship. Next year, I'm the president of the Minnesota Sheriff's Association. We're sitting down doing those meetings, and we're trying to save where we can and provide the best services. And that 2911 laws are a big deal. So we'll zip through the corrections, get to the STS program. The STS program is essentially a pinch hitter right now. You know, sometimes we have 3 or 4 people in the program, sometimes we have 6 or 7, sometimes we have 1 or 2. When they're in that role where there's 1 or 2, we have one person directing 1 or 2 people. That's not real effective. We have that person also providing coverage for overtime, so we don't have to provide overtime when some jailers are sick or things are like that. They're out on sick and safe. So he's like a pinch hitter. He comes in the jail. He also does a lot of transports for us and other things. That person also, when the time comes and we need to make a donation to support the STS program, like as example, the Deer Hunters Banquet last Friday, they made a beautiful picnic table. He did it with the crew. They taught him a craft. They made it with the crew. They brought it there and they donated it and they raised some money. So it does have some benefit in the county. I know different agencies in the county have requested items, and we've always been able to provide those for their events. So it's been a good deal. So again, that 100% of that budget increase is wages and benefits. Enhanced 911, we upped $10,000 this year. There's a bunch of other costs, but it's money that comes from the state. It's not money that comes from us. So we anticipate spending a little bit to upgrade some changes to the 911 thing. As you know, we're working with a phone system that we don't enjoy all the time. And so there's some things we're gonna have to do there. And that, in a nutshell, is my 2027 budget. So again, just to zip through it real quick, I have a 4-year. The autopsy coroner has been $75,000 since 2023, same budget. The enforcement budget went up about $370,000. Wages and benefits. VSET budget, same wages and benefits. Boat and water budget went up 14,000, wages and benefits. Snowmobile budget went up 5,000, wages and benefits. And to Kathleen's point before, we talked about spending money that we have. Last year's snowmobile season was really a dud for us. There wasn't much for snow. There wasn't for the economy. We had been saving on our capital plan, and we had $20,000 reserved. I was able to purchase a beautiful snowmobile last year for last year's budget price. It was like 3 years old. But there's also some benefits if we wait until the rebates come out for this coming year. So we have that money spent. We just haven't spent it in the books yet. There was a question when I was in the back, so I'm sorry. ATV is same, five grand-ish. Corrections went up $150,000, wages and benefits. E911 is explained. Emergency management, wages and benefits went up about $3,000. STS went up about $8,000, wages and benefits. So last year's budget was $7,158,505. This year's budget, $7,707,788. Again, 7.687% increase, and I do believe there's some little things we can do to maybe nickel that down a little bit more. So the IR counts, just for gee whiz, I know sometimes we come in and present that. I know you guys have been busy, and I've been busy. In 2023, the incident reports were 2,652. 2024, 2,815, so an increase of roughly 200. In 2025, 3,100, another increase of almost 300. In 2026 so far, we have 1,863, which to compare it to last year, we're at 1,754. So we're over 100 already. So we see a consistent growth annually. Those calls are increasing. I believe it's based on a couple things. One of them to have to do with population. I believe our population continues to grow in Aitkin County because we provide such great things for people here, and it's such a great place to live. So, any
Thank you,
questions
Sheriff.
for me?
Questions, comments, commissioners?
I'd just like this, the sheriff's department and your jailing staff and your 911 callers. They do a tremendous job,
Thank you.
and I appreciate it.
Thank you. I did hear another question, sometimes when you're in the back of the audience, you hear these questions, and Administrator Minky did a good job answering it, but I do have the details on what that public safety aid can be used for. And I apologize, I know that the county has a fund balance that they kind of look at for emergencies. I've kind of treated it like that. I live very fiscally responsible. And so when they put that money in our budget, I said, here's where it is. Here's what we can spend it on. I hope I don't need to. And so it's still there, which is a benefit. I do believe that there might be a few dollars that come out of that this fall, specifically related to the water tower. You know, that $70,000 bill might come to it.
Right.
We also have a scenario where, with the belt tightening up, you know, there's some things we could use it for. The violent crimes enforcement team is one of them. We can do it for some victim services. We can do it for community engagement. We can do it for training programs. The first responder wellness thing, if we don't get the grant, we can apply some of those funds for that. We can use it for equipment related to emergency services. We can use it to pay for some other personnel or equipment costs that are specified by statute. They're kind of touchy. So violent crimes was kind of the big one. One of the things that I didn't anticipate using it for, but it could be, you know, in the next, I will tell you that in the next 4 years, I'm going to have several of my licensed staff retire. And when I say several, I mean 6 to 7 retire. Those 6 to 7 are from the old school that have worked here in the, you know, mid-20s and up, like myself. And those people all have in their contract that they get when they leave, they get their sick time and their benefits package, that they've done well to do that. Just a quick pencil to it makes me believe it's a $500,000 benefit for that group. And this money could also be used for that public safety aid. So I don't like the thought of making it look like that, but if, you know, instead of grabbing more tax dollars from our, you know, people that are in need, maybe we apply it towards that, so.
Any other comments, questions? Thanks, Sheriff.
Is that a benefit that has since sunset, or is that?
The new contracts don't have it. It was a deal with a contract
That's
negotiation.
what I thought, okay.
Yeah, back in the day, they paid everybody for their unused sick, and
But, I mean, that's longevity for those people that are getting it. That's great.
that was a consideration when they hired their name here the first time, for sure. So. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And young lady, we know you're the brains behind the operation when it comes to the budget. Thank you.
Now I get to buy her lunch.
Yeah, there you go.
Good for you.
On to facilities. Jim, welcome.
Morning, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Good morning. So, as you know, and as you've seen, last meeting I was here, I requested if the board would remove the stipulation to get the old building tore down where we're gonna build the new boat and water, because we had a stipulation on there that we were waiting for the FEMA extension. That was a Tuesday. You approved it, and Wednesday morning I had it in my email that the FEMA extension came through. So that was a good thing. Along with building the boat and water building, we knew there was going to be a gap in what we had for FEMA dollars. This was something that was discussed facilities-wise. I brought that in front of the board. The reason for it is we are adding the wash bay on the end. That is to help with the AIS. It also helps with just maintaining county vehicles, place to wash them, keep the salt, sand off things, things like that. So we knew that this shortfall was going to be here. This $200,000 was in last year. It never got reserved at the first of the year. There was a discussion with the auditor that we should reserve the funds for the boat and water building. That piece never got, so I'm here to request the 200,000. Like I said, this was in the capital improvement plan in the past. It was just, I missed it when we were doing reserves at the first of the year. So,
David, you're supportive.
Yes.
Commissioners, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion of approval by Commissioner Westerland, support.
Support.
Commissioner Sample supports. Any discussion? Rono did a pretty fast job there on,
he
unbelievable.
started on a Tuesday, and by Wednesday at 11 o'clock, he was pulling equipment out of here. So, which, as it went down, is a little bit scary to see how fast it did come down. So, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. Can you clarify something?
Yes.
Do we already have the FEMA money?
We do. So I shouldn't say that. We have the money we have gotten, we have received all of the money from the federal part of it. I believe it's 75%. And then 25 comes from state. And I think we've got all but 10% of the state money, but we do have it in our possession.
All right. I mean, I was just curious. I think maybe I misunderstood something. Where when we were talking about the FEMA extension,
Yep.
and we had this conversation right before the board started, is do we have the money? We've already been paid the insurance money. We've been paid the FEMA money.
Correct.
Or, so the extension was just for the time for us to use the FEMA money, right?
Correct. There was always a chance, if you don't get that extension, of when the completion, that FEMA could pull the money back.
Okay.
That was why the question of starting it without that extension. So we received the extension we asked for, and with that, contracts have been sent out to low bidders for building the buildings. So yeah, I'm working through that to get things rolling on the buildings.
All right, I just wanted to understand to clarify what
Yes.
the extension was. The extension for the money or for the time?
Time.
Thank you.
We're still looking at a November completion.
Yeah, November 15th is what we've got on everybody's contract to be complete, so.
Okay. Commissioners, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
On to County Administrator, David.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Commissioner Carney has requested that this item be placed on the agenda for your consideration. The Arrowhead Economic Opportunity Agency is requesting $15,800 of funding as part of an effort to raise $3 to $3.5 million to purchase and renovate Greenhaven Elementary School in the city of Hibbing, so that they have a place to operate out of. Commissioner Kearney, it looks like he is getting ready to give a little more background on the item.
Right. The purpose of having this put on the board is this request has come directly from them. I sat on the board of executives, directors. My view on this is I don't support this request, but I wanted to have the opportunity that each one of these you board members have a chance to see it and comment your views. Thank you.
As for one, I'm tickled pink that you just said what you did, because I'm not in favor of it either.
Nor would I be.
I'd like to see the $15,000 stay in Aitkin County.
Do we have a consensus?
Yes, we do.
I think that's what the administrator is looking for.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, Michael.
No motion?
I can,
It was slated as a
I can
discussion.
proceed
for
with that
discussion.
direction.
Okay.
Thank you. The second item is we have, this has been an item that I think you're all familiar with, the court-appointed attorneys and contracting for them. So we do have an RFP that is ready to go. There is one small change from what is in the packet to what we would propose. And we actually are recruiting for two attorneys or firms because of some potential conflicts. And so what's in your packet said one, and the update is actually for two. But otherwise, the gist of everything is the same. And so if you're satisfied, if you would want to approve the RFP, and then also if any of you are interested on helping with the selection, we could certainly have a commissioner participate in that selection.
I'd make a motion to approve the RFP as written.
We have a motion on the floor to set effect by Commissioner Carney. Support.
I'd support.
Commissioner LaVisca supports. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
Do you have a
Anything?
second portion on that, or that's just discussion?
Just discussion, but if anyone
Right.
is interested, you can let me know. We certainly can have a commissioner sit on that evaluation board.
If anybody's interested, just let David know. Are we getting any bites? What's it look like out there?
I don't know. It'll be interesting. And yeah, so we'll solicit as widely as we can to find firms or attorneys who are interested in the work, and then we'll see what the proposed fee will be.
See what shakes. Any other questions for the county administrator? Not on to committee updates. I think it's clockwise turn today, so Commissioner Carney.
Not really much to update from my section. Most of my meetings are next week, so I'll defer to Commissioner Sample.
Commissioner Sample?
Well, we had a couple cancellations. AIS, our forestry board, had an interesting meeting with the HRA with Congressman Stauber, and he came and sat down with the director at the HRA and explained to her what they did in St. Louis County when he was a commissioner to put property back on the tax rolls, and kind of how they did it, kind of give her the thing. And I take that we're gonna be having that meeting. It's gonna come to the board in the future, from my understanding, talking to Mr. Jeffers. Talon, I was at the Talon hearing in McGregor. They got a long road to hoe. I will say the tribes are, the bands are really opposed to this. So that was the first hearing. The next one's gonna be down in the Twin Cities. They only have a certain amount of time to get these hearings done before it goes forward. That was an interesting one. The opioid, we approved them at the board today. Also had a meeting with the Corps. We took a boat ride and went out to properties, and they talked to the property owners with, I'd like to say, the townships and the Big Sandy Lake Association, because this is even affecting realtors not sure what to sell, selling property, what to disclose and what not to disclose. And by law, they got to disclose, but what did they disclose? You got a property dispute? So that's ongoing. Airport, I did not make the airport committee. I was getting ready for a concert, but so I missed that. I need to do my apologies.
You'll expect one.
That's about all I got, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner LaVisca.
I just had the library board, and we kind of touched that quick in our budget presentation. Our increase there was $4,280 from last year, which I think is a much more bite-sized increase than we've looked for in the past. So without having to cut services, I think that that's a positive thing. So that's all I had.
Thank you. Commissioner Westerland?
David and I attended the Lake Association Summit at the Moose Lodge. Learned a lot about loons. The loon rescue people were there.
Bunch of loons.
I find it very interesting that so many people
Don't
are
print that.
happy about their lives, their little loon lives. We also had ATV meeting.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Space that, so thanks for being
that's
there.
okay. Well, David was there too and lots of people. Looks like the Mille Lacs ATV Trail is gonna be open and we'll probably have a big shindig down there sometime in May, probably the beginning of May. I think they open at May 1st, they open up down there, May 15th. So, yeah, we'll be doing that. I didn't do extension. That's really all I've had. I've had a lot of wedding stuff going on and just, yeah, a lot of sick people at my house. I know, it's been terrible. Kidneys and all kinds of crap. What's the one, the rhino virus? I said, you're going to the zoo right now. I'm out of here. Anyway, yeah, that's about it.
Thanks, Larry. Budget Committee, you got the fruits of those labors already. And just a point of information, the airport runway is done, complete. It's paved, the lights are in, striping is on, and I saw a plane land there. Theoretically, fuel sales should go up, which is always good. So all I've got, barring anything else, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved, Chair.
Motion set effect, Commissioner Carney, support.
Second?
Commissioner Wisterton, support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried. This meeting is adjourned.
Who's going
Good
to
to
the
see
county?
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Who's going to the county picnic?